Hey, Brian Miller here, and welcome to Audio for Content Creators, where we help you sound better and level up for all your content creation needs. And I have kind of an interesting blind audio comparison video for you. I'm going to be bouncing you back and forth with an A or a B on the screen between two microphones, and I'm not telling you which ones they are. You can tell that it's not a lav mic because there's nothing attached to me right now. So it's obviously something that's off camera. Both mics are off screen right now. And I just want you to listen to the A-B comparison as I talk for a little bit. It just occurred to me that because the only thing I thought before I hit record was, oh, this would be a really interesting blind audio comparison. I didn't actually have anything in particular to talk about. What can I talk about to give you a chance to listen to both of these microphones? What have I been up to lately? It's been crazy here. I'm just 2 to 3 weeks away from the due date of our firstborn. Yeah, about 3 weeks away from the due date. So my wife and I have just been spending a huge amount of time in between our work and all the other things, just getting baby stuff ready. I'll tell you, here's something interesting. You know how when you watch movies or sitcoms and there's a baby coming, and so the manly men are always they're always putting together all the different baby stuff, the seats and the swings and the mobiles and all those things. There's always a comedy moment where the men are just getting frustrated and cursing and chucking stuff across the room. And I always thought, wow, that is like super goofy and over-exaggerated. Until I started putting baby stuff together, which I've been doing now for a few months, and especially over the last couple of weeks. And man, let me tell you something. It is frustrating putting this stuff together. You'd think it'd be simple. There's nothing to it. You're looking at it and you're going, I see the two different pipes, and the instructions say to put the two pipes together, and I can see how they're supposed to go together, and they just don't go, and and you want to throw stuff across the room. It's actually pretty wild doing this stuff. Same thing with like the car seat. I went to go put the base of the car seat in my car. I was like, I'm just gonna head out and do that in 10 minutes, and it'll be done. And like an hour later, Lindsay comes outside looking for me. She's like, what, are you still working on that? I was like sweating and exhausted, and you'd think this stuff would be simple. And it's just all the baby stuff, for whatever reason, is incredibly complicated to do. So that's been a challenge. I have managed to get it all done though. We've got the nursery is mostly set up except for cosmetic kind of aesthetic stuff, some decals and decorations we're gonna put on the walls. We've tested out the baby monitor and all that stuff. We got a bassinet all set up for our bedroom for the first 2 months or 3 months. You're supposed to use a bassinet, or many parents like to, I guess. Okay, I feel like I've talked enough for you to get a good sense of the A-B comparison back and forth between these two mics. So what are the mics? Well, the mics are the Audio-Technica AT875R, a budget-friendly but professional-grade shotgun microphone. It's got a line and gradient polar pattern. It's a true shotgun mic, and that is sitting above my head. XLR plugged into the Tascam Model 12 with no hardware processing at all. There's no compression, no EQ. It's just going in and then into the computer and being recorded directly in the computer. And then there's the Rode VideoMic NTG, which is a prosumer grade content creators all around workhorse of a shotgun microphone. We've talked about it a lot on this channel. It has just a huge amount of features: a 75 hertz roll off, 150 hertz roll off. It's got a safety track feature, clipping built in. It's got an adjustable gain dial with labeled numbers so you can always recall the gain you had on a certain project. It's got a presence boost. It has a 20 dB pad. I mean, it's just feature packed, and it also has a USB-C output, so it can be used as an actual audio interface with no latency headphone monitoring at the same time. But it's not an XLR connector. It is a 3.5 millimeter TRS or TRRS connector. So you can plug it into a portable audio recorder, but you can also plug it in, or a camera, but you can also plug it into a phone or a tablet or a computer directly via the TRRS 3.5 millimeter. So why did I think that it would be fun, or interesting at least, to test out these two microphones? Well, they're both shotgun mics. Neither of them is really cheap, even though the AT875R would be a budget shotgun microphone, because typically shotgun mics are a lot more expensive. It's about $170, which is one of the reasons it's so popular. It's a steal for the price. It sounds fantastic, especially for the price. I think it well out punches its own price. And the Rode VideoMic NTG is about $250. So they're not like the same price, but for $250 you get all that feature set, as I mentioned. Now there are some significant differences in terms of the frequency response. So the Rode VideoMic NTG is, I believe, a full frequency response. I'll put the frequency chart on the screen right now. I think it's 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, but I'll have to check. Meanwhile, even though the AT875R has a full frequency response, it has a 90 hertz roll-off, which I'm pretty sure is to assist with handling noise if you were booming it like a filmmaker, like on a boom. Now, as I mentioned, there is a 75 hertz low cut that you can enable on the VideoMic NTG, as well as 150 hertz if you need to deal with some heavy wind noise if you're outside. But you don't have to, which means you can do what I'm doing right now. And both of these microphones are being recorded completely raw. I have none of the features enabled on the VideoMic NTG, and it's being recorded directly into the Tascam DRO5X portable audio recorder. So I'm actually using two different Tascam devices, and while they're obviously not the same preamp, they can't be, because one of these is a 3.5 millimeter, one of them is an XLR. They're both Tascam preamps, which I thought would be a good way to do this comparison. The other way to do this comparison might be to record both of them simultaneously into my Zoom H5. I'm realizing as I say that would be an even more fair comparison, because then in theory you're dealing with the same preamps. So maybe in just a minute I'll do that to see if there's any difference. I don't really have a great point to this video. I'm not here to tell you one of them is better than the other, only to draw attention to two different microphone options for shotgun type setups. Now, the AT875R being an XLR connection limits you in terms of using it as a running gun setup, unless you're using a much more expensive camera with XLR inputs, or you're bringing a portable audio recorder that has XLR inputs with you. For most content creators, the AT875R is limited to studio usage, like I'm doing right now. On the other hand, the Rode VideoMic NTG is $80 more expensive, but it also has a wide variety of options with USB connectivity and all this other stuff. So these are just two exceptional choices for content creators today that are different. They're both great choices. Neither is better. So I want to know what you think about the difference between these two microphones. Do you really prefer the tone of one over the other? Do you think they're so similar in tone that you would go for the Audio-Technica because it's cheaper, versus maybe they're so similar in tone that you would go for the VideoMic NTG because it's more versatile? I'd love to know. And now let me real quick plug these both into the same Zoom H5 and just see if there's any difference. All right, now I have both the AT875R and the Rode VideoMic NTG plugged into the same recording device, the Zoom H5. I've got the 3.5 millimeter from the VideoMic NTG on a long extension cable, obviously, going into the 3.5 millimeter input. And I've got the AT875R going into channel 1 on with the XLR cable. So these should be level balanced. If they're not perfect in the recording, I will have level balanced them in post, just like everything else. Let's flip back and forth right now. Here is an example of the Rode VideoMic NTG going into the Zoom H5. And here is an example of the Audio-Technica AT875R going into the Zoom H5. I'll be curious to see, I obviously don't know right now, if they sound dramatically different from each other, or they sound different from, I mean, they should both sound a little bit different because this is a prosumer grade device, the Zoom H5, which has, in my opinion, Zoom makes wonderfully useful tools that have mediocre preamps. They have very plasticky sounding preamps, for lack of a better term, whereas Tascam makes warm, wonderful, pro-grade sounding preamps, even in their consumer products like the DRO5X. It's just a fact, really, as far as I can tell, from years of using both Zoom and Tascam. I love them both. I use them both. I find Zoom products incredibly user-friendly and versatile and lovely and fun. And Tascams are a little bit more clinical to use in terms of they're not like fun toy-like things, but they sound better is by and large what I find. So I don't know if this helps you, but anyway, thanks so much for sticking with me. My name is Brian Miller. Come back anytime to sound better and level up, and we'll see you soon. And let me know which ones you like in the comments. Like the video if this was helpful. Subscribe if you haven't already. Buy t-shirts and mugs. I don't have one of my mugs with me right now. It's somewhere else. There's links to everything. All the links are below somewhere. They're down there. And other videos. I have courses, card tricks for money. What's happening?